Got another Kiwi here. This is Maynard, and he's going to talk to us about safe.
Thanks for the intro, Okay, alright, well my job this afternoon is to talk to you about what is, for me anyway, the most fascinating part of lock sport and physical security. And, safes are certainly where it ends, safes are where the buck stops. So if we think about that onion that we talked about earlier in the day, you've got all the perimeter stuff, and you've got the guards, and you've got the RFID access controls or not on your arms or whatever, and then at the centre of that onion, here's a safe. Now, as well as that, in a very real way, there is a very visceral, basic thing about safes too that we need to think about. So we're going to be talking about those two things, and my aims for this talk are to do two things for you guys, okay? So the talk is divided into two parts. Number one, I want us to talk and think critically about safes. So let's go beyond and behind the idea that a safe is just a big grey steel box with a complicated lock or two on it, okay? Let's think more about what the safe means and what it does. Secondly, we're going to talk about manipulation. So no talk on safes would be complete without discussing the three-wheel safe lock, because it's a fascinating thing and it's a really cool piece of engineering. So my goal for the end of this is that I make you guys think more critically about safes and how they're put together and what they mean to us as a people. And number two, talk to you about the basic idea of how to get into what are some of the most high security and tricky locks there are. Make sense, guys? Yeah, good. Okay, so another way of putting that is I want to inoculate you against the bullshit and the hype, and I want to infect you with some enthusiasm. I'm really enthusiastic about safes, and if I could get some of that across to you guys, then I really would do that. So, first thing, what the hell is a safe? Is it this thing here? That's a little Yale safe that you can see that there's the calipers there for scale, that thing's sitting on my table. I can pick that up with one hand easily. Is it this abomination, which we all know and love, right? Which you can open just by looking at funny, but it's called a key safe and it keeps your keys on the wall. Is it one of those? Is it this banker's safe, which is going to feature later on? We're going to talk a little bit about this later on, but that is a torch and drill resistant safe that's supposed to keep your valuables safe in the bank. Is a safe that thing? Now that, look carefully there guys, this is the ultimate security by obscurity. That is a plastic pine cone, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's a plastic pine cone, and you're supposed to stick your keys in there and then stick that by the back door so that when your son gets home from football practice at 9 o'clock at night, he can get it, right? Is that a safe? And finally maybe, is this thing a safe as well? This is a panic room, right? Now, nobody said that people had to be on the outside of safes. We can have vaults that are designed to have people inside them. And I think you'll agree in a very real sense that is a vault, that is a safe in the same way that those other things will be. So how can we maybe define a safe that takes all of those disparate things that I've just shown you into account and roll them into a ball? Well, a safe is a container for making you, the guy that bought the safe, feel better. Now, please notice the language that I've used in there. This is my definition, okay? There is nothing in that definition about how the safe works. There's nothing about standards. There's nothing about fire ratings. There's nothing about what we can and can't put in that safe, okay? It is simply a safe, a box for putting stuff in to make you, the person that is using it, feel better about what you are doing. Now, we've talked about security theatre already today. It's true, all right? There is an awful lot of security theatre to do with safes, and often safes do not do what you think they are going to do. And, if you tell somebody that something's going to work and it's going to cost them $1 million, they would really rather say, okay, well, this thing for $10 is going to work. They'd rather believe the company lie. So, safes are fascinating. Let's skip those slides because we don't have the time. But why do we have safes? Why do the goddamn things exist in the first place? Well, all species, humans included, are protective of their resources. Now, this is pretty much one of the key points in the slide, guys, and I want to hammer this home. And to do that, I've got some humour. Now, this is going to make you remember, okay? So what we have here is Mr. Squirrel, and Mr. Squirrel has a little acorn here. He's got a little nut, okay? And here is a dear great St Bernard, and for reasons unexplained, they're all sitting in some guy's lounge room. Don't ask me how this bizarre thing could come together, okay, but it did. Now, this video should be embedded, and God willing, I can hit the play button and we can play it. Do I just... Yeah, here we go. Okay, so here's Mr. Squirrel. Isn't it awesome, eh? Okay, we are that squirrel, okay? We are that guy. Now, he thinks he just did that acorn, okay? But he really didn't, you know. He tried his best, and he feels better because he, you know, stuck into that big thing, and big things hide acorns, okay? But it really didn't achieve what he was hoping it was going to. We are that squirrel, okay? Now, in particular, humans are afraid of two particular things. One looks like that, the other one looks like that. So we are scared of theft and we are scared of fire. And hey, guess what the two types, broadly speaking, of safes are, right? We have got fire safes and we have got burglary safes. Now, this idea of, there's a reason, right? This stuff, these fears are deeply rooted. This stuff is in the human psyche, and we laugh about and we fetishize, we worship the things that we are afraid of, and the people that want to sell us shit, they know this, all right? Now, just this is the next slide, okay? I could talk about this whole thing for an hour, the imagery and the whole thing. McDonald's wants to sell your kids a resource. They want to sell food, okay? How do they do that? They do that by having some burglar, some thief, wanting to take everybody's food away. What does your kid do, right? Your kid wants to go and buy the thing that's been taken away and keep it safe. This is how the language works. Same goes for religion. Now, does anybody speak any French? Does anybody speak any Latin? Okay, so the word in French for safe is coffre-fort. That breaks down to coffer is any box. So that's where we get church coffers from. It's also where we get coffin from, right? And fort means strong. So literally in French and in Latin before it, a coffre-fort is a strong box. Right, now, have a look at this 13th century woodcut. It is absolutely goddamn fascinating. The church has never been shy of using deep-seated emotions and imagery, right? Now, have a look at the stuff that's in here, you know? We've got an early safe, okay? So we've got our strong box there, and our demon here is trying to steal the church's money. That's your money, right? Because you gave that to the church. That was your resource and you gave that to the church. Now, as well as that, okay, so we've already got the image of our demon stealing stuff. Our demon also steals our immortal soul, right? And where does he take our immortal soul? He takes it down to hell. And what's in hell? Fire, right? The church is using both of these imagery things to sell its ideas to folks here in the 13th century and, you know, possibly later on as well. So, the point that I've used to, the thing that I've been doing here, guys, is driving home the idea that this idea of protecting your resources has been with us since the dawn of our species. And if you go back far enough, if you had something that you wanted to keep safe, you basically hid it under a rock in your coat. That would have been food, okay? We'll blast through these next slides reasonably quickly. You don't need a history lesson because It has already happened actually in the first lecture and the one on the list, history of lockpicking. So we've got a fort, we've got a pirate's chest, we've got the Industrial Revolution, and this is where things start getting interesting from our point of view. Somebody whose name should be kind of familiar started playing around with locks and safe locks and later pin tumbler locks. And then in 1878, we wound up with what is now basically the forerunner of the modern three-wheel safe lock. That is recognisably similar to what we get in safes today. Now, that was designed by a guy, and you couldn't make it up, a guy by the name of Joseph Locke. It's great, it really is. Joseph Locke improved on a design by Linus Yale Jr., okay, and came up with this amazing bit here in 1868. Does anyone know what that lock was designed to protect? Any clues at all? Where did the first relatively modern safe lock go?
Crown jewels.
I'm sorry?
Crown jewels.
You're very, very close, yeah. Any other punts? These guys are in New York. We're in the US. Okay. Tiffany's, right? So jewels. By the time the Industrial Revolution has happened, we, as not as a species here, but certainly as a society, have gone from trying to protect our resource, which is basically food, to protecting shiny rocks. Now, didn't that make you think? Okay, next question. This is immediately post-industrial revolution, right? What, as a society, are we most interested in protecting at the moment? Where does our investment in high-tech security go currently?
Information.
Absolutely, yeah. Data, zeros and ones, no doubt about it. It is going to be really interesting to see where our society goes from here. I have some guesses, okay? Does anybody want to take a punt about what we maybe are going to be trying to protect in 100 years' time? What are we going to be sticking in our safes in 100 years' time? At the moment it's zeros and ones.
Water again.
Dry land.
Dry, that's a bloody, I almost said fuck. That's an excellent idea. I don't think though, with our definition of containing, right, I don't think we can contain dry land, but that's a bloody good one. Any other ideas here?
Water.
Yeah, I think what we're going to be doing is protecting our identities and our genetic material. I think that the future of the security industry is to work out some ways of protecting who we are as organisms, maybe, you know? So you hear about folks talking about uploading consciousness to computers and whatever. This is all science fiction at the moment. I think it will probably be the next step after the zeros and ones. Now, let's have a talk about fire safes and bankers' safes and budgets, because remember the name of this title, guys, the title of this talk is Banks, Burglars and Budgets and the Average Joe. We'll talk about the average Joe later. Now, the protection that you can give, whatever it is that you are trying to put in your safe, will be a compromise really between the amount of money that you can afford to spend and what it is that you are trying to protect your stuff from. So it is very much like cars. You can spend a shitload of money and get something that goes very fast. You can spend a little bit less money and get something very specific. Or if you're an average Joe, you are probably going to end up driving a shitbox Toyota Corolla, right? So the point here is there will be a compromise made somewhere. You can't do everything at once. That's it. It's great, I really like that. Okay, so let's think about fire safes first. We are going to think about three things here. We're going to think about fire safes first, then we're going to think about bankers' safes, so we're going to think about theft, and then we're going to think about the average Joe after that. Are we all clear on the structure for the next few minutes? Okay. Fire safes are simple beasts. They are simply a container that is designed to buy you time so that whatever it is that you've got in there doesn't combust as soon as you look at it. Now, here's a very old style one. It's a grey metal box, right? That's the phrase that I use in my introduction. Here's a modern one, okay? Now, does that look like a safe to you? You can pick it up and take it under your arm, right? Okay. But it is designed to offer protection from fire and heat to the things that are inside it. Now, if you look at that ad very, very closely, this is very different to the Chinese hyperbole that you've just seen with Lucas. They are very careful not to show data in that picture. If you're going to look after your media, then you need a different kind of safe. But what they're trying to say with this one is, okay, you're at home, you've got your passport and your granny's photo and whatever, you can use this safe to look after it. Now, the locks on these things tend to be fairly simple, and here is one of my favourite locks in the entire world. This is about 100 years old now, this thing. It's made by a firm called Cottrell in England. And the lock itself is a very cool lock. Does anyone know what this lock is? Can anyone read what the escutcheon says? Yeah, it's got the silliest name in lock sport. It is called a climax detector. It can sometimes be tricky, right? Now, it's actually a reasonably secure lock, okay? But the manufacturers weren't interested in pushing the fact that it was very burglar-proof or resistant to tampering or whatever. They wanted to make the point that this was warranted fireproof. So they're not saying that our entire container is fireproof, they're just making the point that our lock is fire resistant. Okay, now, what does a... Well, let's phrase the question another way. How do fire safes protect the things inside them from heat? So what is the mechanism? Anybody got an idea?
Insulation.
Yeah, yes, partially. Yep, so I'm hearing insulation.
Modern ones have often got something in them that will evaporate because phase change will get rid of a lot of energy.
Absolutely, that is absolutely right. And in fact, that goes, not just the modern ones, okay, that one goes back a very long time. If we just reverse up for a minute, that one there, that is a plastic material that is designed to foam up and kind of make a cocoon, okay, so that's a modern material here, real good. Okay, the two things that it's trying to do, number one is transfer the energy away via insulation, and number two, it is trying to put a layer of steam, a layer of water vapour around whatever it is that you've got inside that safe that you want to keep cool. Now, again, we come back to budget. It is not about making your safe absolutely impregnable to fire for the next 100 years. That's impossible. What you are going to do is make it impregnable from fire for a number of minutes. So your budget buys you time, basically. There are plenty of different standards out there, but almost every country has a specific one. I'm not going to get into that bullshit, but the bottom line is the more you pay, the more minutes you get. However, that only lasts for so long. So, any ideas, guys, on what the very first materials to insulate a safe were? So now we're thinking, okay, all right, we need to envelop this container in steam somehow, and we need to use some kind of insulating property to keep the heat outside. Any ideas what was tried first? And for a while, actually, for quite a few years. Yeah, who said sawdust? Yeah, okay. Unbelievably, wet sawdust was what they tried first. And I don't think it was very long here, folks, before somebody realised that this was actually a fairly bad idea, because the water in the sawdust evaporates off pretty quickly, and yeah, you just bought yourself a few minutes. But after that, you have now got a very combustible material sitting around your safe. So the whole sawdust thing didn't last long. Okay, next after that, we came to a whole lot of proprietary materials, and the gentleman down here has already mentioned that there are modern materials that are designed to do different things. Almost every safe manufacturer uses some different stuff, all right? Now, have we got any ideas on what some of those materials were? Yes? So I've heard asbestos,
Fire brick,
fire brick, yep, which is what?
refractory ceramic.
Yeah, absolutely, ceramics is the key there, yeah. I'm sorry?
Aerogel.
Yes, yeah, maybe later on, but yep, okay, what else we got?
Saltpeter.
Saltpeter, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that would have worked, it would have gone up like a firework. Okay, the three most common ones, concrete, alum, and the stuff called diatomaceous earth. And I apologise for the slide, guys, this is the worst slide in the presentation. There's too much information on that. But the key here that you need to be seeing is that those materials do two things. Number one, they are very heavy and very massive. So what those things have got is a huge amount of thermal inertia. You have to heat them a lot. You have to put in a lot of energy to get anything going on. Now the second thing is, we have got water molecules, so we've got the H2O, H2O and H2O bonded into the molecules that form this insulation. Now, of those three, by far the most interesting is that bottom one, the diatomaceous earth. Does anyone know anything about this? I only learned this shit when I was researching this speech, okay? Does anyone know what this diatomaceous earth is all about?
Kitty litter.
I'm sorry?
It's kitty litter.
It's
Kitty litter.
kitty litter. Well, yeah, yes, it can be used that way. Yeah, okay. Do we know anything else about it? Yeah, it's used for that as well. Again, for properties not dissimilar to what we're dealing with here. Does anyone know what a diatom is?
It's the shells of microscopic creatures, yeah.
Absolutely right. Give that man a cigar. Or maybe not in there, they're probably rules. Diatoms, this is absolutely fascinating. I can't believe this stuff, okay? Diatoms are single-celled algae. So they are living creatures that we have shared this planet with since the Jurassic Age. So we're talking hundreds of million years, right? Now, they are and they're still here now, so they've been around for Christ knows how long, and they continue to be so. Now, when these things die, they deposit down and make sediments. Later on, you dig those sediments up and you use them for the properties that they've got, and we've heard of kitty litter and insulating steaks or whatever. But here's the really cool thing. You can see that they are, that they don't look like normal organisms, okay? So normal organisms, you know, whatever, bacteria, people, whatever, are kind of pink and squishy, right? These things here are very regular and very geometric. Does that strike anybody as interesting? The cell walls on these things are actually comprised of silicon. So we have shared our planet with silicon-based life forms for several hundred million years. And I had no idea of that. Honestly, it's the coolest bit of trivia I came up with while I was putting this together. Now, moving on from straight-out biology, an old fire safe will lose its insulating properties. So you see these things for sale in second-hand shops, you see them, you guys had Gumtree, we had Trade Me, whatever, but you see them for sale from time to time. Buying an old fire safe for anything other than decoration is probably a bad idea, because after a certain period of time, they basically become ovens, okay? And your stuff is offered no protection in them. All right, banker's safes. Banker's safes work on a slightly different principle. So we're not so worried about fire protection now. We have decided that, okay, we're going to make a compromise, and maybe we're not going to protect from fire so much, but we are going to protect against burglary. Now, that is a pretty typical vault door. So, I mean, it's pretty flash, right? There's lots of stuff going on, and it's obviously very massive, and it looks pretty imposing. But when you boil this all down, this is actually a fairly simple thing. So we have got the actual door of the vault here. It's this circular thing, okay, so that's your safe door. This massive structure here ain't nothing but a hinge, so that's not really doing terribly in the middle, here and here. Now, I would like you to know here, folks, that we're on the outside of the safe and so are those bolts, so they are, you know, reasonably easy to attack, and then we have got these wheels here, which are designed for moving the vault work. So the business end of that banker's safe, that vault, is actually just that dial there and that one there. All of the locking cleverness, if you like, all of the locking mechanism is on that door anyway, just boils down to those two little dials, in the same way that that Chubb banker's safe I showed you earlier in my preamble is secured by those two dials as well, and we will talk more about that later. Now, let's have a talk about the bolt work itself. Folks are very intimidated by safes. So you look at a banker's safe in particular, and you imagine that the inside workings of this thing are very complex, and there's a shitload of stuff that you're never going to understand, and you know, it's all going to be a nightmare, okay? But the bolt work in a lot of ways is theatre. Now, it isn't all theatre, okay? The bolt work has a very specific job to do, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the folks who build safes are not stupid. They build these things to last as long as they can and work as effectively as they can with a minimum of maintenance, right? You want to design something that's going to last and going to work, and you don't have to be out there servicing. And so the bolt work inside, the workings inside something like that or something like this, are as simple as they need to be to do the job. Now, did you hear the language I used there? It's as simple as it needs to be to do the job. Now, I would suggest that in this case, the job here is as much impressing, shall we say, the board of directors and Mrs. Smith who uses this, as it is actually securing the door. Now, shall we think about what we're seeing here, guys? There are radial bolts all the way around that thing. Now, I'm not saying you can secure that door with just one bolt, but I'm pretty bloody sure you don't need quite that many, okay? As well as that, we've got all this stuff around the edge of the doorway itself, so the implication there is that this is going to hermetically seal and, you know, be an impregnable fortress, all right? But just have a look at the sign above the door. I'm not sure whether you guys can read that at the distance that you are, but that says safe deposit, all right? So we haven't got the crown jewels in here. Okay, what we've got is whatever Mrs. Jones wants to stick in her safe deposit vault, but they want to make her feel good, they want to make her feel comfortable, and so we have got all this stuff to accomplish that job. Now, it does keep the safe closed as well, okay, but there is a definite element of theatre in what you're seeing there. Now, following on from that, let's have a talk about this little safe here. There is a long story behind this safe. I bought this safe very cheaply indeed on Trade Me. So again, that's the equivalent of Gumtree for you guys that live over here. It belongs to a pharmacist, and Christ help me, this guy kept his Ritalin and his morphine and the methadone and all that other stuff that pharmacists have to keep in this thing. If you look pretty closely, you will see that that there are two locks. So we have I just lost the battery there? Here we go. We have a key-operated lock down the bottom there, a lever lock, and then a three-wheel combination lock up here, which has been taped with gaffer tape into the opening position. Now, we will talk more about that lock later. But when I swear I'm not making this up, okay? That lock there, right, had not been opened but once in the entire 20 odd years that this joker had the safe. It was set to the factory default combination, right, which on this lock is 50-50-50, so which can go in two ways actually. You can either dial the numbers, or you can just dial all wheels 50-50 and then back around to the drop. So this guy, yeah, you're laughing, eh? Because it's terrifying. But this guy's an average Joe, and this is where I'm going with this. This guy didn't want to be asked dialing combinations and setting combinations and getting a locksmith in to change the combination and service it or whatever. So he opened it once. He put gaffer tape all over it so nobody bumped it and the thing locked up again. And then for the next 20 years, he just wandered around using a key, which is about as insecure as you can get. And again, we're dealing with average Joes, okay? We're not dealing with lock nerds and security snobs like we all are, okay? We're dealing with ordinary people doing ordinary things. Now, that's a bit of a sidetrack, okay? What I want to tell you about is the bolt work in the safe. Now, I said that it is going to be as simple as it can be to do the job that it is designed to do. And with God as my witness, the inside of this safe looks like that. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have pulled safes apart before. The first time you pull a safe apart, you really do think you're going to come across all kinds of mechanical weirdness and booby traps, and you read things about safes had tear gas canisters in them, and, glass things that you had to break and God knows what in the old days, and that may well be true, but what this thing has is a formed steel plate section here. There is a little cam there, and you can pretty much figure out for yourself that you just rotate that handle and back goes the bolt. Now, it is stopped from moving by two locking elements, and you can see here that I have now removed the three-wheel lock that was up the top there. It's actually sitting in my bag out in the green room, and we're going to play with it tomorrow. But when this was operational, this simply had two locks, one vertical up, one vertical down. The bolts went down like that, and to open this thing was massively simple. All you needed to do was retract the bolt or bolts, depending on how many that you had in play at the time, slide the goddamn thing across, and there you go, you're in. Nothing complicated about that. Now, another thing that I want to show you about this, come back to that picture there, and you can see that the only thing holding this closed at the moment is that bolt. Now, the smarter ones amongst you will figure out that there's actually two ways you could retract that bolt, okay? You could either do it the legit way, and you could turn the key and that would retract back down, but there's another way as well. What's another way that you can get rid of that bolt?
Move it out of the screen.
Absolutely. So we can move it in this axis out towards you. That is called punching a lock. Now, if we go back, quite some number of years, this was a fairly standard way of cracking a safe. So here I am with my combination dial on the front. I don't really need that, so I angle grind that off. Now what I've got is a hole and a spindle. So I get my dirty great hammer on the dirty great punch, and I whack that thing, and that forces the whole lock off into the guts of the safe, and we're in like Flynn. Now, there are ways to combat that. So we're going to talk later on about a thing called a relocker. Fascinating little mechanism, okay? I want you guys simply to remember that there is an obvious attack that involves whacking that off the back of the lock. We good with that? Okay. Now, force multiplication. Force multiplication is the reason that we have bolt work. Now, I just find this stuff absolutely mind-boggling interesting. Have a laugh, I do. I don't get out much. What's that?
Relay.
Excellent, thank you. What is a relay?
Relay.
Yeah, okay, all right. Take it more basic than that. What is a relay? What's it designed to actually accomplish?
An electromagnet, you apply a little bit of power here and it closes the contact so you can switch a lot of power.
Excellent. That is exactly the key to it. We have got a a force multiplication mechanism. What we are doing is controlling a very large amount of energy with a very small amount of energy. So you stick a 12-volt current through it, a little switch clicks across, and you just switch to 40 volts or 10,000 volts or whatever. Now, safes are designed along the same principle. And I want you guys to have a look at this. Now, this is a very good, very secure, high quality, and difficult to manipulate safe lock. Right, and it's had a couple of bits stripped out of it for demonstration purposes, obviously. Okay, what do you notice about the business end of that lock? Tell me about these wheels. Yeah. Okay. Those wheels are made out of nylon. Those wheels are made out of plastic. Now, well, they're actually not that squishy. They're fairly hard, all right. But let's have a think about it, okay? If we wanted to get into the safe that this thing was locking up, we might need to use 5 kilos of high explosive. I don't know, pick enough, it doesn't really matter. We would need to use a shitload of energy to get into it. You with me so far? Right. On the other hand, what we've got actually locking that up is a tiny little mechanism here made out of plastic that really wouldn't kind of protect me from a bomb going off. So there's got to be something at work, okay? And what happens is the safe uses the principle of force multiplication to progressively make that lock and that safe more secure. So you control a large amount of energy via the bolt work, then via that bolt there, so we're getting smaller in energy now, by a little wee thing this big, which takes virtually no energy at all for you to dial the combination into. So how many joules of energy is it going to take you to dial 3 numbers, right? You're not going to lose weight doing it, okay? But that tiny amount of energy is switching, it's acting as a relay. All this other energy to protect you from whatever it is that you're trying to protect you from. So your budget buys you energy resistance. Your budget buys you time, and in this context, time and energy are synonymous. So the more you pay, the more energy resistant your safe is going to be, the longer it is going to take folks to get into it. Now I just need to say a couple more things about that to cover this off. Energy, generally when we're talking about safes, comes in 2 forms. One's heat and the other is mechanical deformation energy. Safe, you know how you see movies and people dynamite safes and Christ knows what. That really doesn't happen anymore, okay? That peaked in the 1920s, and explosives getting into safes peaked again in the 1950s. Doesn't happen a lot now. Anybody got any guesses why those methods might have peaked in those eras? Any ideas? 20s, 50s?
Just after the wars, they had explosives.
Absolutely, yeah. So what happened post First and Second World Wars was that you had a shitload of average Joes come home from the war, right? Now, they had been taught that killing people in certain circumstances was acceptable. They had been taught to be comfortable around things going bang. They had taught that you were supposed to achieve objectives. Now, let me tell you, not every single one of those guys went back and taught in the local school afterwards, you know. Some of those guys ended up as crooks, and they took the skills that they had got, transferred them to the criminal world and away they go. So you don't see much of it now. What you do see a little bit of is guys trying to cut their way into safes with torches. That is quite clearly in somebody's workshop, right? I mean, this is not an actual attack, but this idiot has got virtually no protection, and you know, he's going to kill himself probably. But the point here is, whacking energy into a safe like that is one way of doing it, and the safe has ways of defending itself. So again, we have materials in terms of the outer skin of the safe, so big thick lumps of steel basically. We have materials inside the safe which are designed to dissipate the heat. So again, asbestos and these diatomaceous earths and all these other things which are designed to soak up heat. And the other thing that will sometimes be used inside there is a layer of copper. Now, why would you do that?
Thermal transfer.
Absolutely, yeah. This is why you have a copper bottom on your pots, right? So you heat it here, and the heat gets taken away. Now, if you're trying to cut a hole in a piece of steel, and the system is sucking all that heat away from you, then it's going to take longer to get through. The other mechanical protection that they have is some stuff called
Ball bearings.
yeah, well, yes, they are ball bearings, yeah. Okay, let's take a step back. This is let's call it a substance. A sheet of substance that's put inside the skin, the outer skin of the safe. It has a specific name in the industry. Anybody?
Tungsten carbide, ceramic.
Bearing sheet.
Yeah, okay, all right. We're getting names of actual materials here. It's called hard plate. Okay, so you have got a sheet of hard plate inside the outer skin of the safe. Now, the idea of the hard plate is to either make it difficult to get a drill through it, either by blunting your drill, right? So you have very, very hard materials that your tungsten carbide tip can't really get through, or in this case, and I think this one's very cool actually, those ball bearings are held captive in that array in the plane, right? They are designed to grab your drill bit and break it off. So the thought here is, okay, let's let the guy drill into this safe, okay? Let's let him get through that initial steel plate of however much thickness that we've got, and then hit this and snap his drill and hopefully leave the bits in there so he can't go back in and start drilling in that same hole again. And we just bought ourselves more time, by changing the dynamics of the energy. Are we cool? Energy and time, it's all about those things, eh? Alright, now, who wants to talk about the locks?
Yeah.
Excellent, yeah, me too. This is a lock sport conference, right? So we should probably do that at some point, eh? Randall Munro. Randall Munro is one of the best communicators on the planet currently. You guys are familiar with XKCD?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. XKCD is a webcomic. He's a very nerdy, sciencey, mathsy kind of guy. And he published a book for Christmas last year actually called The Thing Explainer, in which he explained difficult concepts simply. And the man is very, very good at it. Eh? Now, does anyone know what he called a lock?
Shape joker.
Yeah, absolutely. It's up there in black and white. Now, very interesting stuff. Randall Munro says, and I agree with him actually in terms of this type of lock, that a pin tumbler lock is a go, no-go mechanism to figure out whether you, the punter, are holding a thing of the right shape. It wants to know, have you got the shaped thing, all right? And it either works or it doesn't. Now, up to a point I agree with him. There are exploits and attacks and defeats for that mechanism, and we're all sitting here because we know about those, okay? But in a lot of ways, the man's right. And certainly in terms of safe locks, given that we're not trying to pick the things, okay? the key locks in safes do actually do this. Now, why do you never see a pin tumbler lock on a safe container? It is easy to manipulate, although let's be honest, we could make a more difficult one. We could add pins, or we could put security pins in there, or whatever. So we could have the Chinese thing, right, with the 3 layers of everything.
Does it mean tumbler locks don't sell safes?
No, well, now that is true, actually. We can come to that later on as well.
You can lose the key.
I'm sorry?
Lose the key?
Yeah, well, yeah, although you could argue that for lever locks as well. So we're talking
If the
specifically
safe
about
doesn't
these.
check that you've got the thing, it checks that you've got the knowledge.
That's actually a very good point, but that's not what I'm driving at here.
The mechanism's on the outside.
Aha, who the hell said that? Okay, whoever you are, thank you. What this lock does, it breaks the rule of force multiplication. What this thing does is exposes itself on the front of the lock. So now we've got the goodies, we've got the good stuff, we've got the stuff that we've got to defeat right there on the front of the lock, ready to be attacked. Now, go back to energy, okay? This is all about energy. Let's say it takes 10 joules of energy to turn the key. I don't know what the numbers are, make this shit, right? But let's say it's 10 joules. Let's say it will take 1,000,000 joules of energy to blow up the safe, or to gas exit open, or whatever. So we've got a whole lot of magnitudes of difference there, right? Now, getting into that thing with a torque attack takes very little energy at all. Now, you know what I mean, right? You sharpen an Allen key, you whack the shit out of that thing into the keyway, you get something that can apply torque, and you turn it, and all you needed to do there was shear 5 2mm pins, and you're in. Now, what sort of order of energy do you need to do that? Not much. Is it therefore very much use to us in a safe context? Nah, it really isn't. So, what we do see on safes an awful lot are lever locks. Again, it has the downside that if you lose your key, you're stuffed, right? But they're very simple. The average Joe can wander around with his shape. Is that me, or is that something else? Something we did, not me. The average Joe can wander around with his shape, and the lock can check that shape, and he's going to get in happily. Lever locks are almost ubiquitous, all right? So this is, that one there actually is the one that you saw on that little wee chub safe of mine, and again, this is sitting out the back, so if you guys want to play with this later on, you can, but massively, massively simple, all right? Really simple design. This, again, like I said, this pharmacist had had this thing 20 years, right, and that had never been serviced in its life. There wasn't a skerrick of lubrication on that. There were no stickers on there to say that somebody's looked at it and serviced it or whatever, and I will tell you now, that thing was absolutely as smooth as butter. Lovely, lovely design, and obeys the principles that we need it to obey. Alright, so let's have a think now about the combination locks. So we're not thinking now about keys, alright? We are thinking about our different kinds of locks. They're not really shape checkers, are they? Because we're not poking a shaped thing into it, okay? So they must be doing something else. Now, I'd like to offer a definition here. They are an entropy checker. What's entropy? Chaos, yeah, thank you, okay. What is the opposite of entropy? What's the opposite of chaos?
Order.
Right, okay. This safe locks want to know, can you input a certain amount of order into the system? Now, it gets even more interesting than that. I want you guys to think of safes as cars, right?
It's bigger on the inside.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff crammed in there, I have to say. They want to know, right? So either either form of combination lock, which we're going to talk about in a minute, want to know about, have you got some information, have you got some non-randomness in terms of both spatial information and temporal. They want to know whether or not you know something in time and space, and in addition to that, can you communicate that to the lock through the interface? Making sense? Now, it's difficult stuff, okay, and the average Joe don't like this, alright? So, let's think about the old style of doing it. 3-wheel or 4-wheel, whatever, combination locks. Beautiful, beautiful interfaces. I could have that sitting on my shelf. I could look at that all day. That is a lovely piece of industrial design, right? But fairly difficult for the average punter to use. So it's very easy to misdial the number. It's very easy to get the number right, but so the spatial characteristic right, but the temporal dimension wrong. So you talk to safe technicians, and they will say that a reasonably common cause of a lockout is that some poor guy has dialed the right numbers into his safe, but he was all stressed at the time and he got the order wrong, right? So they got one part of the entropy right, but the other got it wrong. So almost universally now, on a new safe, you are going to see something like this. Now, much, much, much easier. 10 minutes? Awesome, thank you. Much easier user interface, all right? And what happens here is you simply enter the code and away you go. No obvious physical attacks, all right? So, how are people gonna try and defeat this system?
It's using a relay.
Yeah, true.
Plasma card.
I'm sorry?
Plasma card.
Yeah, true, okay. If you were going to get into this lock and defeat this specific lock,
with an identical safe and a key mechanism that's been modified as a keylogger that you can just install from.
yeah, okay, that's pretty cunning actually. That goes to social engineering, which is where I'm going actually.
Put in 4 zeros.
That is definitely one way out, okay. Social engineering in one sort or another, and the other nasty one is duress. So if somebody's holding a gun to your daughter's head, right, then you are going to tell them what numbers to stick in there. And I think that the lock industry has actually made it a little bit harder on the average Joe by doing that. Now, I've just had the 10-minute call, okay, so we're going to have to make some decisions here, all right? I don't think we're going to have the time to talk about the average Joe and his average safe and 3-wheel combination locks. Which one would you rather do? Now, I'm sorry? In 10 minutes, yeah, I've got some...
Cat is alive and dead.
Okay, alright, no, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I am going to talk to you guys now about the average Joe. I'm going to round off this part of the lecture now, okay? And then tomorrow in the workshops, I'm going to have safe locks and stuff. And what we're going to do there, for the guys and girls who are interested, I'm going to get you up to my table and we're going to talk about that one-on-one. I think that's going to be a better way to do it. Now, the reason I say that is that teaching you guys how to manipulate a safe lock is a complicated thing, and I need to have first taught you how one works. So I've actually got 2 processes I've got to do there, and I think I'm going to lose the engagement of some of you if I do that now. So for the guys and girls that are interested in that, we will talk about that tomorrow. What we are going to talk about now is the average Joe, okay? Poor old average Joe. He's not a happy man, okay? And he doesn't like this talk about time and space, you know? He's a simple kind of guy. And he does silly things. Now, I told you I was going to talk about the safe, right? This got decommissioned out of the ANZ Bank just down the road from me, right? It wasn't taken apart by a locksmith, it was just taken out by the guys that demolished the building, and what they did was write the codes of the safe on the thing so that they could sell it on trading later on. For the love of Christ, when you look at the numbers, there are
100 million possible combinations on those two. Right, so double that, we've got 200 million possible combinations. Out of God's plenty, the average Joe that is using this safe